find comical about that AOC little home video she did there is she's a member of the House of Representatives, which is the branch of the Congress allocated by population. She seems to have missed that whole entire thing, like the whole federalism, electoral college, regional representation thing, right over her head, flew right over her head completely.
So for her to be ignorant on this is pretty disturbing. But I say to her, welcome to the discussion 200 years late. And of course, if she went back to a civics class, like in elementary school, and learned about this, she would learn that the whole point of this debate and the wisdom of our founders was to create a system that gave states enough power to balance out, to be a counterweight to the federal government.
Right there. 2 more seconds and he would have stabbed him right in his neck or in his back or his arm or wherever. He would have stabbed him, bottom line. This should not be allowed. This should be clear-cut evidence that these people are a direct threat to society and they need to be demasked, they need to be disbanded, and they need to be arrested on sight.
But the world has changed. The world has changed. If I leave here today with you liking me, I didn't do my job. I didn't do my job. And I very seldom leave with anybody liking me, so I know I'm going to do my job. And I'm not here to insult your ethnicity, but I will. I'm not here to insult your religion, but I will. I'm not here to insult your gender, but I will. Because in the real world, nobody gives a
Yeah, Ali, she seems to have missed the civics class with, horizontal and vertical checks on power. How within, voting for the president, we didn't base it on the popular vote. We did an electoral college to preserve some sense of regional interest. There are farmers in Wisconsin and, as I said last night, citrus farmers in Florida who don't want to be voted out on a strict population direct democracy vote in their interest. She seems to have missed that entirely, yet she's one of the more prominent members of the U.S. Congress now, with one of the biggest Twitter followings.
First of all, if you're going to go into an activism role and you're going to use, if your backdrop is going to be the African-American civil rights presence that it brought from the 60s, and you're going to use that for your own causes, you don't sell out. You don't turn your message into a Nike hoodie. You don't go in there with your afro puffed out and you go into the NFL offices and then walk out with this, with this pro-black era from the 60s t-shirts and stuff like that.
Political correctness is nothing more than a manifestation of lack of self-esteem. You want to fit in. You want people to like you. Why? Because you've had poor role models. And who's your role model? Mommy, maybe daddy, an older brother, a grandparent. How were they made to be put in a position to create high-performance people? They have no training. And when I say retarded, I don't mean retarded, but I mean retards just like you.
If you mistreat people, there are other people like me who will help hold you responsible for it.
How do you feel when someone's doxxed, meaning their real identity and personal information are outed online? Doxing usually happens after people have been caught behaving in ways many find problematic. Writer and activist Sean King has come under intense scrutiny for his frequent doxing, building a huge online following in part by outing people he deems racist.
You hang around with cripples, you learn how to limp. You understand what I'm saying? And most of the people that you hang around with are mental cripples. There are people in this audience today. Now, I'm not going to embarrass you by asking you to raise your hand. There are people in this audience today that have never been spanked by their parents. They've never been reprimanded by their parents. They've never got in a schoolyard fight. They wouldn't say shit if it was in their mouth.
Sean King is a journalist and a political organizer who has close to 3 million followers on social media. Some say he's an internet vigilante, and others consider him a hero of the Black Lives Matter movement, largely because he exposes everyday racism and violence on the internet. I don't know a whole lot about his methods, and I don't even know if I could say all of his methods are ethical.
That you even saw or followed that made you even think that selling out to your oppressor or signing a deal with your oppressor was a way to go. And I felt like that was a waste of time. He did all of this. He had all these fans, You know, all these young black kids who really didn't grow up with parents that were in the activism like my parents did. My parents grew up in around that 60s, 70s era in Virginia and North Carolina. So I know what I'm talking about. I felt that from my generation. He don't have a generation. He don't know where his father come from. He don't know any of this stuff. And he was leading kids down this road where this is what you have to do.
And you wonder why the world's so f***ed up. I can see. And that's why I call you snowflakes. Because you melt under f***ing pressure.
When someone does something like this publicly, and we say, hey, what's this person's name? Who is this? When we hold somebody responsible for that, one, we hope that it ends their public behavior. But we also hope it sends a message to other people that you are free to be publicly hateful. Just know that you might be known for it. Our goal isn't so much to ruin somebody's life as it is to stop the bigotry.
But there have been times where it seems you and others have misidentified folks.
Sure.
How do you make sure that you aren't misidentifying people?
I have never misidentified anybody that we suspected of racism or police brutality. It wasn't until this past summer I found myself in a strange place.
King is referring to a case in Dallas where a woman claimed she was sexually assaulted by a Texas state trooper after being pulled over on suspicion of DWI. King publicized the allegations to his social media following. But footage from the trooper's body camera disproved the woman's allegations.
How many of you would want your kids to be like you? How many of you would want your kids to be like your grandparents? Self-esteem is built the first 7 or 8 years of life. Who are they around? Again, mom, maybe a dad once in a while. They're not programmed to build anything. Show me your friends and I'll show you your future. Do you want your kids to grow up like the guys you hang with, that you chill with? Bill Gates doesn't hang. Elon Musk doesn't hang. Warren Buffett doesn't chill. Henry Ford didn't chill. Steve Jobs, who I knew, didn't chill.
Gonna reach around and buckle you in.
What we never considered was that she would completely make the story up.
And then once that information came out to be not true, what did you do?
Oh man,
to correct?
First I deleted everything that we said. We said the officer's name. It was the officer. Like, we didn't misidentify the officer. People read the piece that I wrote and they said, hey, this isn't a public apology.
You're saying that you've never misidentified someone, but there's been stories that have been written about how there's an officer in Cleveland by the name, a Cleveland transit officer named Sean O'Neill. You had been linked to a group of people who had misidentified him as the officer who pepper sprayed a crowd who had gathered for the movement for Black Lives convening in 2015.
I've never heard of it.
Sean O'Neill?
Never heard of this case.
King wrote about the pepper spray incident in 2015 for Daily Kos. King didn't mention the officer's name in his blog post, but a Cleveland activist, Rachel Smith, says she tweeted the wrong officer's name, and then King retweeted her incorrect tweet.
Most of us, when I say us collectively, not me, most of us are attracted to people that are like us because we fit in. We don't want to be a sore thumb, either on the upside or the downside. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. And, you know, most people don't want that.
So simple to say, so difficult to do. Because subconsciously, your brain is always trying to get you comfortable, and it will tell you any story as to why you shouldn't go do that. I don't have the money, I just got married, I just got divorced, I just got kids, a Brexit, blah, 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 blah.
A conference in the city downtown, and there's a juvenile, I think 14-year-olds, who was passed out drunk on a bus. So he couldn't care for himself. The officers had to take him off and release him to his mom. Well, they took him off the bus. The one convention was getting out. The attendees of the conference on scene wouldn't let the car go. They wouldn't disperse. They started pushing the car. So the officers on scene kept on giving warnings to get back, trying to give them lawful orders to get out, and they didn't. So the one sergeant on scene went ahead and deployed the OC spray to make room for the car to move out.
I'm in Cleveland to talk to Sean O'Neill, the officer that Sean King doesn't remember misidentifying as the officer who pepper sprayed a crowd of Black Lives Matter activists. We reached out to a couple of people that had been accused of misidentifying you.
Right.
One of them being the activist and journalist known as Sean King.
Yeah. he had retweeted a post from someone else, and he just retweeted and added something there about Sean O'Neill. But there were several people that I'd found on social media that had misidentified me. So I'd reach out to all of them and say, hey, look, this is not me. Here's the proof, so on and so forth. Can you retract and apologize? I mean, come on, you're messing with my life and my family's. All of them did and apologized except for him.
Why? Because you saw what your parents were afraid of. You saw what your grandparents were afraid of. You saw what your older brother was afraid of, etc., etc., etc. What the kids need is leadership. Command allows no intimacies. It's lonely at the top. And one of the reasons that the current generation is so f***ed up is because they want to be everybody's friend.